I'm excited to introduce my guest today, who is not only Cara Brown, but her three black labs, two of which are in spirit, have transitioned home, and one who is just a 7-month-old black lab puppy named Boz. So I'm happy to have you all here to share your story. It's a phenomenal story about how not only dogs put their lives at risk to save the people they love, but it also speaks to the possibility and the reality of reincarnation. Because it's our belief that Cara has had her dog reincarnate now. You've had three times, three incarnations. So the first incarnation when I first met Cara, gosh, we're talking maybe 20 years ago. Uh, she had a beautiful black lab named BJ, and she reached out to me as an animal communicator, grief stricken after he jumped into a pool and was electrocuted, which was devastating. Cara saw it and needed to make sense out of it. And so when we spoke, BJ came through and shared an amazing story of how he sacrificed his life to save the humans around him from going into the pool. And of course, Cara was devastated, but interestingly enough, BJ had her back and sent her her next black lab, who we feel was BJ, named Bojangles. And Bojangles was in your life for what, about how long, Kara?
11 years. 11
11
years.
years. And then recently, they never lived long enough. Bojangles left. And of course, tremendous sadness because he was an awesome dog, just like BJ. But Bojangles again had Cara's back, and she went to the exact same breeder she got BJ and Bojangles from. And interestingly enough, there happened to be a puppy, and now she has Boz. So welcome everybody,
Yeah.
and
Thank
I would
you.
love
Thank you.
love to hear from you, Cara, just how you feel about having three dogs. I mean, hard enough to lose them, of course, but to receive them back as reincarnations of the last dog.
I I sent out a Christmas card after we got Bo, after BJ's awful death, and then that he died in April, and we Bo Bojangles, we called him Bo, was born in June, so he was about almost exactly Boz's age at Christmas time. And I took a picture of him and I put, "May the magic of believing in miracles bring you joy and delight this holiday season," or something. But it just felt like a miracle. It was like the, can this really be so? And there are a lot of circumstances. I'm not sure if you want me to tell the story, but there are lots of really quite remarkable circumstances around the time of BJ's death and us getting Bo that just are stunning. They're stunning in their synchronicity, and it just um, I have a healthy skeptic, and so I feel sometimes, and I think sometimes it's because I think other people are skeptical. And so, what I say when I tell the story is there's no way to prove this or disprove this. But I choose to live in the world where this is real. So, it makes you feel like have faith and hope that good things can happen. And it's it's one of the wonderful things about having an animal, because animals can reincarnate. I lost the first person really close to me a year and a half ago. My dad passed away. And so my dad can't reincarnate, and I can't get another dad. He would need to grow up and be older than me. And that, it just doesn't work with humans in the same way, at least. But with dogs, we can have that kind of continuation of the story, so to speak.
I'd love to hear
Boz is
about the
having a drink.
synchronicity.
So
Oh, good
you
for
want to
him.
hear all this,
So,
it's
oh,
amazing
absolutely. I
story.
think my listeners would be just thrilled to hear them because it seems almost magical, almost fantasy, but I, like you, choose to believe that this is not fantasy, but truly this is how
Real,
spirit
real.
works.
Yeah. So um the pool where BJ died was a neighbor's pool, and he had swum in that pool many times. And he was his white lab friend Chudley was Chudley's house. Chudley wouldn't go in the pool, but Chudley's mom Eileen liked me to go over and have BJ swim in the pool, because Chudley would get his exercise by running around the pool and barking and playing with this guy in the pool. BJ was a hugely lion-hearted dog. I could throw the ball off the diving board and he would jump off the diving board into the pool. He just was fearless. We were there the day before. I was there with, this is an important part of this story because it was, like I said, it was April. I was there with my nieces, who are twins, who were 9 at the time. And they were jumping up and down on the diving board, and BJ was swimming in the pool. And he was out in the middle of the pool, and he winced, and he turned around and came back to the stairs in the shallow end and came running over to me with his tail down and his head down. And I said, "What happened? Did you get stung? Like a yellow jacket or something?" And I don't know what it was, but it just, nothing ever happened. So the next day, Eileen was away, and her elderly husband, he's much older than she, is not going to walk the dog. So she said, "Would you come over and exercise Chudley by bringing BJ over?" So we did. And I was sitting on the edge of the diving board with my feet dangling down, swinging back and forth. And I had the ball in my hand. And I said, "Come get the ball. Come get the ball, BJ. Come get the ball." And he swam right up to me. Everything in his body went berserk. And then his head and tail went down. I was sitting over electrified water. My nieces were jumping up and down over electrified water. If they jumped or fallen in, fortunately it was cold and they would not have survived. So it was a treacherous situation. I am so grateful for my intuition. It told me, get off this diving board. Do not jump in after your dog. And I went over, he was close enough to the side of the pool. I went over to see if I could pull him out. And the water was an angry buzz. So the irony of this whole thing is my husband is an electrical contractor. We called him over. He turned the power off to the whole house. We got the dog out of the pool, la, la, la. So I was referred to Kathy after this. I was part of a church community, and that one of the members of the church was a client, and she referred me because I couldn't sleep for 2 nights. I witnessed it. And I'm glad I witnessed it because it wasn't a mystery, and he wasn't alone. He looked at me in his last moment. So, but Kathy was really helpful to let me know that it's possible that his spirit could come back to us, because I went to see my neighbor friend, and it was a challenging situation, and she felt horrible, and but I said, BJ and I weren't done. I'm going to pray. This is pre-Kathy now. I'm going to pray for another Black Lab boy because he was only 5.5, and we have to continue our story. So Kathy said, I see another black lab male in your future, and it's going to be I see a farm in Sonoma County, and your husband will know. Okay, I am equipped with this information. A black lab male, farm in Sonoma County. Here we go. BJ came to work with me, and the next neighboring office had a gorgeous female Bernese Mountain Dog named Pika, and BJ and Pika played in the back hallway in the office. And so I told Pika's mom, Anne, what happened. And she was, of course, devastated for us. And she shared with her 3-year-old daughter, who was, she was a huge part of this story, as you'll hear, that an appropriate version of the story for a 3-year-old. She didn't, that Pika's friend had died. Catherine, the little girl, was really taken by the whole situation with BJ and could not stop talking about it, and went to the window at night before bed and said, Mama, BJ's in the clouds. BJ's in the clouds. She would talk about him all the time. So here we go down the trail, and we let our breeder know, because the breeder was in Sebastopol, which is in Sonoma County, where Kathy said, and they were really sad for us. And they said, we've got a whole litter of yellows. They're coming soon. And I said, no, he's going to be black. So they called us and said, a couple of months later, so we had an accidental litter. We've never had this in 30 years of breeding dogs. We didn't think that this dog was in heat, and she was in heat. And there you go. And this litter is born with a mixed yellow and black dogs, and which was really unusual to them, because the sire of this litter has always generated all black litters. So they said, this is very strange that we only have 2 black dogs, 1 male and 1 female. We are holding this little black male for you. That little black male was Bo. So he's 3 weeks old. That's the youngest he would be when she would let me come see him. I held him. And he was the size of a burrito. He was just this big. And he climbed my shirt and started licking my neck like mad. And she said, oh, he likes you. Well, I felt like he more than liked me. I think he knew me, but who knows? And so then I went to work. That was on a Sunday. And I went to work on Wednesday, because it was a part-time job. And I told Anne, Catherine's mom, that I had met the puppy. And she said, what puppy? And I said, yeah, there's a puppy. A puppy was born. And I held him on Sunday. And she said, that's weird. Because on Monday, out of the blue, Catherine says, Mama, BJ's back from the clouds.
Wow.
So, I mean, she's 3 and she had no idea.
Well, she did have an idea.
She just knew. Well, I mean, she didn't have any material idea, right? Nobody knew.
She was listening to spirit.
So
she was listening to BJ.
Exactly. But she hasn't, she hasn't lost her connection like we sometimes do as we age. Anyway, so when I showed Joe, the pig husband, Joe, because you said that Joe would know, I showed him the picture and he said, oh, honey, he's our dog. He's absolutely our dog. So when we had gotten BJ, we got him at 12 weeks. It was, as one can expect with a puppy, we put him in his crate his first night and he cried a lot. And, we had to deal with this, separation anxiety and adjusting to the new house, et cetera, et cetera. And we got Bo. She let us take him home when he was 7 weeks old. I mean, he was this little guy. Put him in a big Labrador sized crate. Not a peep from night one. Just, I'm home. He already knew that it was his job to take the paper in. He was dragging the paper in from the driveway when he was about the same length as the paper. And he would not go. So he was my first baby dog. And I don't know, for some reason, BJ wasn't our baby dog. I wasn't raised with dogs. And so these are my first dogs. And I guess just the whole, we got BJ when he was a little bit older. They were trying to find a home for him because he wasn't a good retriever. They breed for hunters and he didn't pass the hunting test. So they needed someone who just needed a pet. And that's us. We're not hunters. So he was perfect for us. But he took him a couple of years to learn to bring the paper in. He wasn't quite getting it, but he was fearless. He was absolutely fearless. So anyway, we have this little guy, and he's our dog, and he's so connected and so part of us, and in a way that was really exceptional. It felt, like there wasn't he was easy. And there was something really amazing about him. He didn't need the cone of shame. He would leave his wounds alone. And though he was a puppy and he would chew things up, he never ingested anything that wasn't edible. So we came home one day and there was the whole dog food bag, assuming he'd gotten out of the garbage and shredded it in little pieces. And I thought, oh my God, how much of that plastic lined paper bag is in his belly? You hear that. I put it together like a puzzle. There was not one piece missing. So that was our Bo doggy. Do you want me to talk about the end of Bo's life now, or
Let's move to the end, because we want to also introduce Boz, who we
God? Yeah.
feel very strongly is Bojangles and BJ.
So BJ developed, I can't even remember the name, hemangiosarcoma last fall. Bozzy is standing outside. Here we go. Here's Boz. There's Bozzy.
Hi, Boz. Boz is 7 months.
He's being a little. Okay, so it was on the surface of his body, hemangiosarcoma, and it was a very strange place underneath his tail, and then it was on his chest. So we had those two things removed, and it was when the day that I went to pick him up from having the second one removed, he collapsed. He collapsed at the vet. When he had gotten out of the surgery, everything was fine. He walked around, gone outside, and peed. I went to pick him up. And when he was coming out of his little crate at the vet, he absolutely collapsed and was in serious distress. And they didn't know why. So we took him to the pet emergency, where they have much more sophisticated equipment. And they did a super fancy ultrasound, and they found a tumor on his spleen that had ruptured. And so he was 11. He was still in good shape. But you know what? I should back up a little bit, because we had a conversation, Kathy, right before this, because we were worried about this cancer. Mm-hmm. And you told us a few things that ended up being absolute. I mean, Spirit told you exactly how this was going to go. You said that when it happens, it's going to happen fast. And you said, have a plan for an emergency, and that he's going to need you, like Reiki, like giving him energy in this process. So it was absolutely spot on. In fact, I can remember in the moment thinking, emergency? We're gonna need an emergency plan. I guess I really didn't quite take it to heart, because I did take him the day before he had the surgery. I wanted him to have a nice long hike. And so we went for a 3-mile hike around a lake near here, a reservoir. And I think that if I'd known that he had an internal tumor that could rupture at any time, I wouldn't have done that. And I'm glad I didn't know, because I would have kept looking at him like he was a ticking bomb, And because what if it ruptured on the other side of the lake, and he's an 88-pound dog, and
the whole thing.
So I was in touch with you. We were at the pet emergency, and I was privileged to be able to make contact with you on the phone. And I said, "Is he going tonight?" And you said, honey, I think he is. I think he's going tonight. And he did. So this was before we knew that it was a tumor that had ruptured. So it was a big day, not quite as traumatic as BJ, because that was really out of the blue, but I was going to pick him up after minor surgery, you know, this marble sized thing that was being taken out of his chest, which was a no big deal thing. And we went home without a dog at 9 o'clock at night. So it was pretty stunning. So of course we were in touch. And the interesting thing about the difference between the two incarnations of the dogs is that the first time there was all of these circumstances, you know, Catherine and in the clouds and back from the clouds, and the accidental litter that only had one black lab and one male anyway. And this wasn't like that. It was quieter. But the way I take that is that I needed that the time before, and I didn't this time, because I have in myself the faith that this happened, and that we just needed, what you said was just be open, just be open. So 3 nights after Bo died, my husband, Joe, had a dream early in the morning that, I mean, actually late in the morning, just before waking. And he woke from it with a lot of energy, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. That was so real. He said Bo came to him. And he didn't speak, but he communicated to him. He said he was younger and healthy, but what he said was, Dad, I gotta go. And what he interpreted that to mean is that he was in a hurry. So, of course, we let our breeder know again. We have a relationship with them outside of dogs too, so it's nice to have a personal connection. But you know, just to be able to call them up and talk. But they said, well, we have a litter. They were, and this was, they were born that night.
The night of
all
Joe's
black,
dream.
2 male. It was 3 nights. So Bo died on the 3rd. Joe's dream was on the 6th. And Bozzy was born on the 9th. So like 3 days, 3 days, 3 days.
6 days.
Yeah. 3 days and 3 days. So we didn't know which one. We did not know which one. We knew this was that it just felt like it. Joe said, what are the odds, you know, that they're going to have a litter? And right now their dogs are in huge demand, and it's because of the pandemic, and it, you know, they have a big line, and that they would just like put us at the beginning of the line, and here you go, and there's 1 or 2. So they had put collars on the dogs, and appropriate to the way we kind of think about sex and colors, the blue and the green went on the 2 boys. So they were sharing videos on Google Photos, and there was and photos, mostly photos, and then a video. And there was this one video, the first video they show, and there's these little pups, and they're running around in their pen, and this little green was just like up at the camera person, and we didn't know whether, she just said little one. She didn't say boy or girl. We didn't know that this was a boy. We just knew that it was the green collar. So I said, what if he's showing himself? What if he's going, it's me, it's me, it's me, it's me? Because all the other puppies were off eating. And this dog loves to eat. But he wanted attention more than he wanted to eat in that moment. So the other thing about green is that it's our color. My husband is Joe Greenwood. He loves green. Our house is green inside and out. It, you know, it's just, I mean, this is our green furniture. I mean, we are green. I'm an artist, and my art is green. So, I mean, we are green. My logo is green. So green. If there's a color that is Joe and Cara, it's green. So I said, well, there's this little green collar. So we went and met him, on the 28th of December, and he was the runt and the quietest, the most sweet and mellow, the least active. But there was just this kind of buttery yumminess about him, and he was absolutely at home in our arms. Tiny, little tiny. They were genetically tiny. Tiny these dogs are. I don't think he's going to be as big as the other two were. The other two were 85 pounds, and this one may be 60, which is just fine because we're a little now.
Yep,
Um,
exactly. Downsizing your dog.
yes, right. We're downsizing our dog. So I have to say that my husband Joe's faith, I was stronger than mine was, and I was riding on his faith. He had the dream. And so the way I'm holding this all is that it doesn't have to be like the lightning bolt comes from the sky and there's a rainbow that goes across from one mountain to the next and you hear the choir of angels. That it's sometimes more subtle, but it's no less real that that you have these spirits that come back. So um Boz is he's not Bo. He's his own dog. He's his own personality. He what Kathy said is he's going to learn fast, and he's going to want to grow up fast. He was potty trained, house trained in like basically functionally, not without accidents, but like he was going to the door in less than a week. Less than a week. He was not even 9 weeks old, and he was going to the door to say, "Let me out for a pee." We did have some accidents after that, but I mean, he knew this is what we need to do. So he is he's a quick study. He's really awake, this dog. Quite something. He's not as easy as Bo was. Bo was more placid in some ways, but a little more fearful, understandably. Like he would never flop open and his back legs open and show his belly and let you. He was more guarded. He would kind of tuck his legs up and protect himself. But Boz is just, he does the frog. He lays on his belly and does the frog with his feet back, and he'll flop over and let you rub his belly. He's just intertwined, like the three of us. Like we've all become like a braid, and he's just part of us now. And it happened really easily. Just like here you are. The funny thing is, I was worried about him. My mom was worried about him too. I'd gone up to see him 2 or 3 times before we were able to take him home because I just couldn't stand to be away from him.
Well, of
And
course.
yeah, and he had these really spitfire sisters. I mean, they were just. Oh, here I have to show you this. I don't know if it's going to show up without the light, but he is
Oh,
just.
there he is, upside
See him?
down. Hi, Boz. What a good puppy. He's grown up
He
quickly. I mean, he's
loves
getting
me. He
big for
loves.
a run.
Yeah. So I thought, if this dog is sick, if there's something wrong with him, it doesn't matter. He's already our dog. This was before we brought him home and we knew he was fine. And by the way, all the kind of super mellow, that was just because there were other beings around who were taking that place. He woke up when he came home. So the last little thing that's coming to my mind, unless you have questions, is that we have a second story in our house. We have stairs that go up there, and they're carpeted stairs. And BJ and I somehow devised this game. We call it Stair Ball, and it's really just sort of playing catch using gravity between the two of us. So he would be at the top of the stairs and I would throw the ball up to him and he would drop it and it would bounce down the stairs and I would throw it back to him. He would just, he would drop the ball down to me. And when he died, I said to Joe, how am we going to ever have another dog who's going to play stair ball with me? So eventually Bo did. He played stair ball with me and he loved stair ball. Boz was doing stair ball with him when he was like 2.5 months old, and he got it. And he was actually throwing the ball down the stairs, like putting his head back and letting the ball go down the stairs, and like that. So it's, he just knew what to do. Now, maybe that's a dog thing. I don't know. Maybe all dogs would do that, but
No,
it
no,
made me very happy.
I mean, I think a lot of dogs might, but what Boz says, it was something that Bo taught him. A lot of
Oh,
things
cool.
I get BJ and Bo have paid it forward to Boz. So, in terms of preparing him to be your dog. But I feel there's no doubt in my mind and in the way I see the world that BJ and Bo sent Boz, and it was really important that Boz that Joe would find out about Boz through a dream because it helped Joe get to a place where he needed, ready for the next puppy. And the puppy, I mean, I'm grateful you had the 2 months to grieve and prepare, but Boz came really fast because your other dog,
He
from
did.
what they
It was
told me,
it was
was,
4 months. It was 4 months between BJ and Bo, and and this was just 2 months, just enough for him to be 8 weeks old, so we could take him home. So
but they gave you enough time to grieve and just get some healing in before sending you. But I believe they sent you, Boz, and they knew exactly where you could find him. That's why he was at the same breeder that you got the other two from. And like I said, the dream for Joe was very pivotal for them in helping Joe be on board for finding the little guy who's not so little anymore.
yeah, I not so little anymore. Um, I it like I said, this one was different in that um, I I think that my connection has grown, but like it grew between BJ and Bo. So I was even more emotionally entangled in the best way with Bo than I was with
Mm-hmm.
BJ. And it felt a little soon for me. But but just because it felt soon to me doesn't mean that it was wrong to get another dog. You know what I mean? It was it was time. He was here, and so I was doing both. I was grieving Bo, and I was falling in love with Boz. So it
But
just
I think they do that
it
by
doesn't.
design.
Yeah.
I think the dogs do that by design, and that they we can honor the one who has passed, but then they know for us to move forward, they have to come back and accompany us and assist us in our lives. But there's something very strong between the three dogs. And then your husband had a dog before that I feel is also, before you had BJ, that was also connected to all of this. Also a B name. I can't think of his name off top of my head,
Name
but
was Bud. His name was Bud. And there's an
Bud.
amazing dog story, Bud. If you want another amazing dog story,
Sure.
um, Joe was single, and he was in that phase in life as a young man where he was kind of finding a room to rent in someone's home. He wasn't a homeowner, and he was. Um, I think he was in his late 20s when he got Bud. Bud lived to be 14 and a half. So I had Bud for 5 years. We were together for 5 years, Bud and I. And he was really my first dog, but he was a 9-year-old dog when I met Joe. So um, Joe was renting from this woman who was um, living upstairs and was kind of a lower area where she had another unit, and that's where Joe was. He had just moved in, and she found a flea in her unit upstairs and freaked out and told Joe he needed to get the dog out. And he was like,
Oh,
what do I do? So he took the dog to Maiden Lane Kennels, which is in West Fairfax, it's not there anymore, went in West Fairfax, which is about probably 2.5 to 3 miles away from this house, down, a major arterial road.
mhm.
That night, after the first night he took Bud to be in the kennels, he heard a scratch at the door at 2 in the morning. And somehow Bud got out and found his way, and he'd only lived there a few days, to where Joe was. And Joe said, oh my God, here you are. I get it, buddy. You and I forever. And um, he found another place to live immediately, because there was just no question. This dog was to be by his side. So that
Well,
was
and
Bud the dog.
I feel Bud sent you BJ.
Yeah.
So there's uh, now a long history of
Yeah.
dogs choosing Joe. Then and Bud has told me that he had a lot to do with Joe choosing you as his wife and partner. And when he left, he sent BJ. And of course, nobody really expected BJ to leave so soon. But the selflessness of BJ and what he
Yeah.
did to save not only your life, but your niece's life
And anybody
is
else who would have been in Eileen's pool. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. He is, to me, he's a hero, of course,
Yeah.
but something
Yeah, he
that
was.
has resonated with me since you first shared the story and I spoke with him. But then to see the reincarnation and or being guided to your next dog by your other dogs is so beautiful. And that
Yeah.
I feel you, even though I know you were grieving and sad when it came to waiting for Boz, eh, because you had been through kind of the process, you there was a certain knowing and faith, as you said, that you were going to find the right dog, and your dog made Bojangles made it very easy for you to find Boz, and
So the
certainly.
names you see made it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, all I was going to say is they made it easy and they figured out ways of coming into bodies and reincarnating, i.e., we don't know how this pregnancy happened. This never happens. And how are there black and yellow labs in the same? But I feel your
Right.
dogs, I just feel like they're very, I don't want to say elevated, but enlightened spirits
Uh,
that
yeah.
understand, are very conscious of the life cycle, and they knew that you and Joe were listening with your hearts. So when they did show up, you responded. And
And the interesting thing
you're,
is that
go ahead.
when we needed to have help with knowing which dog was ours, he was the only black male, right? And I remember asking you both times, is it possible he could be yellow? Is it possible he could be female, or she could be female? And you said no, black male, period. In fact,
That's
when
what they showed me.
that's what they showed you. So, but the
Well,
interesting thing is that we had a choice this time between little blue and little green, and it was our job to discern which dog was ours, right? Whereas before we didn't have that job; it was done for us. But we're
yes,
experienced with this, and we could follow our hearts. We could say, well, of course it's little green because he showed himself in the video, and because he's green, and that's us. That's our sign. Like that's all we don't need to be like hit over the forehead with it. We could just go, we're green people. Of course it's going to be the green
Well,
one.
well, you follow the signs. I believe they send us signs, like green, like Mr. Green with green in your life, in the dream. For me, when I was looking for Yogi, I knew he had been born, and some of the things that popped up were he was being raised by older cats. I have 20 senior cats, and it was really important to me that this puppy was comfortable around cats. So that was a sign for me. So
Yeah.
there are signs. We just have to remain open to them. And what I think you did so beautifully, and I'm sure you had your moments, was to just give it over to the higher spirit and be guided instead of projecting what you think, what it should be. You just say, "Guide me, and I will go where you guide me." And you found Boz. And Boz gets everything so fast because I think he's been here before. And the other dogs have
Yeah.
mentored him. Not that he has to do any of these things, but these are things they enjoy and enjoyed in their previous life. It's kind of like Running in the Rain, the book. Running in the Rain, where the
Oh,
dogs keep
yes.
reading.
I love that book.
Oh God, I would
I
every
love that.
time I would get to a chapter, I love the book too, but I'd have to go take a deep breath when the dog transitioned, and then it was really wonderful to see the dog return. But that's sort of how it feels to me in your situation. Obviously, circumstances are different, but it just speaks to the cycle of life that our lives don't end when our bodies do, and we come back,
Yeah.
especially our animals. But not every
Um,
animal reincarnates. I mean, my dogs, my animals, I have my sister got my mom's dog reincarnated, but I figure every animal comes to us to help us in our life and help us on our spiritual journey wherever we may be in that process. And you have evolved over the years with the help of all your beautiful dogs.
yeah. I,
So,
I guess what's coming to me to say is, is that there's an, like a fantasy of an idealized like process that this is, and that's not necessarily true. Like I said, I've had challenges with Boz, but I also like underneath that is both Joe's faith and something in me too that knows that this is the dog. And just because I'm having a hard time with him and he's not as easy as Bo was, doesn't mean that he's not what I need in this moment, you know? And I have not been one of those people who was born readily setting boundaries. And this dog is pushing them, and
oh,
he's
sure.
making me set boundaries. And he's so in a way that Bo didn't. We could leave Bo at home by himself when he was 4 months old, not in the crate, and he would be fine. He did not want to chew shoes. He would run up and down the lawn holding on to the laces and do figure eights with his head, and we'd come back and the laces were really tight, but he didn't chew shoes. I mean, everything that's chewed here is either Boz or BJ. So,
Well,
Bo
well,
was
what
an easy dog.
Well, and what I'm hearing you say is they're not carbon copies or clones of one another. They may
No.
have a lot of similarities. The spirit may feel similar, but with every body, there's different experiences and their own spiritual journey in which they're learning. And because I
Yeah.
sense part of why Boz is a little more challenging is because you're more experienced to help you, like you said, to grow and evolve spiritually as well as a human being, setting maybe clearer boundaries in a way you didn't have to do with Bo.
Yeah.
So, well,
Yeah.
I want to thank.
It's, oh, sure. Yeah. My
Well,
pleasure.
It's been just wonderful. I hope you will come back again and be a guest and bring all your beautiful dogs. But I really thank you for sharing your story because it speaks not only to the possibilities, but to what really does happen. Like I keep repeating in the cycle of life, if we can open our hearts and get out of the way to allow spirit to work through us. But I'm so grateful that you found Boz, that you're, doing well, and that you have many years ahead of you with this amazing dog.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you to you for being our companion on this journey, because you've been like the person holding the flashlight ahead of us, because we are in the dark and we're willing to take this journey, but we needed you to illuminate for us. So we're so grateful for that, really,
Well,
Kathy.
it's
It's been
it's an
amazing.
honor.
Amazing.
It's an honor for me to help be there to support the love and the connection. And I am also honored because your dogs trusted me to help you. Because your story, BJ's story, is not an easy one.
No,
Not an easy
it
one.
was not. But the really interesting thing is that the reincarnation is very healing. You know, like the
Yes.
trauma evaporated once I held Bo.
Yes.
It's
And
just
I
it's
would
like there's
imagine the trauma of losing Bo helped
yes,
evaporate when you were holding Bosley.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Joe took also,
Oh,
I'll email it to you in case you want to use it somehow. A picture of me holding Boz in the back seat on the way home when we first brought him home, and you
oh,
can
I would
see
love to
that
see
we're
it. I would love to see it.
yeah,
And I look
yeah.
forward to watching and being part of your journey with Boz because he is a special little man.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cara. Thank you, Boz, Bojangle, Bo and Bob, BJ and Bud for being here. And I want
Yes.
to thank my listeners for coming on the journey with us. And I look forward to seeing all of you on the next podcast of Animal Talk, where the pets drop the mic. Have a great evening, everybody.